Ever felt like you're just drowning in information? You're searching for that one clear path, maybe to feel better, work smarter, or just find some inner peace. You've got the articles, maybe scribbled some notes, but trying to distill it all, it feels like this huge task, right? Like you have the map, but the X is just frustratingly blurry. Well, today we're taking a deep dive into something really foundational. We're looking at the enduring wisdom from Norman Vincent Peale's classic, The Power of Positive Thinking. We've got some really fascinating excerpts here. They tackle pretty much everything from conquering fear all the way to cultivating unstoppable energy. And this isn't just another self-help book, is it? It's considered, well, a bedrock of the whole movement. We're going to peel back the layers, try and understand why its message hit home for so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission today, really, is to pull out the most potent nuggets from these pages. Not just the what to do, but crucially, why these principles seem to be so deeply effective. And importantly, how you can actually apply them in your daily life, no matter what challenges you might be facing right now. Think of it as a kind of blueprint for a more powerful, more peaceful existence. And Peale himself, he admits in the preface, he learned these dynamic laws the hard way by trial and error in my personal search for a way of life.
Right. And he says, quite candidly, actually, that he was the most difficult person with whom I have worked. So, if this philosophy helped him, he felt it could genuinely help others, too. He rooted his work in the teachings of Jesus Christ, but he wrote it for, as he put it, plain people with a real deep concern for human pain and struggle. So this deep dive, it's really for you if you're looking for a simple, workable philosophy of living that's, full of joy and hope and victory. We're aiming to go beyond just simple affirmations here, to really get under the hood and understand the mechanics of how your mindset can actually transform your reality. And it's all supported by these real-world anecdotes and, well, time-tested wisdom.
Exactly. It's about a deeply personal journey, for sure.
Yeah.
But the principles Peale uncovers, they seem to have a universal application.
Okay, so let's jump right into the first core idea then. It's about cultivating the foundational mindset, belief, and peace. And this isn't just, a fluffy concept. It's about building a really robust internal framework. And right at the heart of it, as Peale puts it, is the power of believing in yourself.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here is this idea that faith in yourself isn't just something you have or don't have. It's something you actively acquire. Peale actually describes it as a skill, something to be studied and practiced, and it requires a pretty systematic approach. Lots of prayer, deep engagement with the Bible, and really practicing its faith techniques. So this isn't superficial stuff. It's about tackling those deeply embedded feelings of inadequacy to build up what he calls realistic faith in yourself.
So it's more than just saying the words. It's about driving your prayers deep into your doubts, fears, inferiorities. That phrase really jumps out. He introduces this concept of deep prayers having suction. He quotes a Texan cook who said, "When a big trouble comes along, you have to pray deep prayers." And he shares advice from a businessman, too. To get anywhere with faith, learn to pray big prayers. God will rate you according to the size of your prayers. And Erland Hayes' grandfather added, "The trouble with lots of prayers is they ain't got no suction." It's this idea of pushing those prayers down, deep down, until they hit the root of your fears and doubts. It almost sounds like a psychological intervention, doesn't it?
It really does.
And Peale also notes that building self-confidence involves practicing suggesting confident concepts to your own mind. He calls it thought disciplining to make your mind a power-producing plant.
And that thought disciplining is just crucial. Because if your mind is already, dominated by insecurity, you have to consistently introduce a new positive pattern through this kind of repetitive suggestion. It's a deliberate re-education process, really, aiming to turn your mind into that power-producing plant instead of, a factory churning out negativity.
Okay, and what Peale suggests next is actually a surprisingly practical way to weave this into daily life. Get this. Imagine turning your car into a mobile confidence building station. He tells the story about a traveling salesman. This guy overcame really deep-seated fears and insecurities just by using small cards with Bible verses on them. Things like, "If ye have faith, nothing shall be impossible unto you," or "If God be for us, who can be against us?" He'd literally swap them out on his dashboard, committing them to memory.
Wow.
And this consistent, repetitive, positive input, Peale argues, literally started to rewire his brain. It changed his thought patterns from fear and defeat to faith and courage. And maybe not surprisingly, his business actually improved too.
That really illustrates such a powerful insight, doesn't it? Just like negative thoughts can pile up and take over, positive, confident thoughts when you repetitively introduce them, can create a whole new, healthier mental pattern. It's basically a form of cognitive restructuring, years before that term was even common.
Yeah.
It proves that thought disciplining is required if you are to re-educate the mind.
Yeah.
The salesman actually found his sales went up because he wasn't dwelling on fear between calls anymore.
So it sounds like the facts themselves, the circumstances maybe don't matter as much as our internal story about them. That feels like a real game changer for anyone feeling stuck. Peale uses that story of the man who felt everything had been swept away after his business collapsed. He was guided to literally list his remaining assets: his wife, kids, friends, integrity, health, living in the U.S., his faith.
Right.
And just doing that exercise helped him shift his viewpoint, his mental attitude.
Indeed. And that incident really shows how we often let a fact just overwhelm us mentally before we even start to deal with it practically. But on the flip side, a confident, optimistic thought pattern can actually modify or even overcome the fact altogether. It just points to the incredible power of our internal lens. Like that profound statement from the psychiatrist Dr. Carl Menninger, attitudes are more important than facts. It's really about which lens you choose to view your reality through.
It really sounds like a proactive mental diet then. You're deliberately choosing which thoughts get to, live in your mind. And the results can be pretty remarkable, apparently transforming almost complete defeat into a confident, inspiring personality. Emerson said, "They conquer who believe they can," and also advised, "Do the thing you fear and the death of fear is certain." Even Stonewall Jackson apparently told someone, "General, never take counsel of your fears." The secret, Peale keeps emphasizing, is filling your mind with thoughts of faith, confidence, security to actively push out doubt. He gives another example of a man who went from cringing hopelessness to being a compelling force just by reading the Bible, underlining and memorizing every single statement about courage and confidence he could find.
He was essentially cramming his mind full of the healthiest, happiest, most powerful thoughts in the world. It's all about that active mental conditioning. And then Peale actually lays out 10 specific rules for building self-confidence. It's like a systematic program for this conditioning. The core insight running through them is that confidence isn't just a passive trait you're born with. It's a skill you actively cultivate through consistent mental work. Some key principles are visualizing success, immediately countering negative thoughts, realizing that real self-worth comes from connection to a higher power, not just external stuff, and making a true estimate of your ability, then, interestingly, raising it by 10%.
Why is it 10%? Okay.
Yeah. These aren't just feel-good platitudes. He presents them as a systematic conditioning program practiced by thousands with successful results. It's rooted in repetition, visualization, active counterthought. You can see the direct ties to psychological principles.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork for a mind filled with belief. But what kind of mental environment really nurtures that belief? Peale argues it has to be a deeply peaceful one, because real power, he suggests, often stems from inner calm. Which brings us to the next point. A peaceful mind generates power.
Yeah, and he illustrates this so well with that story about the contrasting breakfast experiences. Remember, one man complains he had a terrible night because he got an earful of trouble listening to the news before bed. But the other guy, he had a grand night. Why? Because his go-to-sleep plan involved reading the Bible before bed, specifically the 23rd Psalm aloud. He went to sleep with a mind full of peace.
That really highlights the conscious choice we have, doesn't it? What we let into our minds, especially right before sleep. It's like having a mental filter, deciding what kind of night and probably what kind of day you're going to have. And for that man, that simple daily ritual transformed his sleep and improved things all down the line.
It really points to the profound impact of our last conscious thoughts before drifting off, because thoughts tend to sink deeper into the subconscious during sleep. It's an aspect of mental hygiene we often overlook, but it's key for cultivating peace. It's about actively choosing peace over disturbance.
But it's not enough to just stop thinking negative thoughts, is it? Peale talks about emptying and refilling the mind. He suggests, dropping worries overboard, like watching them disappear in a ship's wake. He references the Bible's forgetting those things that are behind. But crucially, he stresses that emptying isn't enough. The mind can't stay a vacuum. It has to be refilled immediately with creative and healthy thoughts. Then the old fears, hates, worries. They find a sign on the door of your mind reading occupied.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how active this process is. It's not just passive dismissal. You're actively strengthening new thought patterns so they can literally repulse the old ones. It leads to a more permanent state of peace. It's about building mental resilience, creating a mind genuinely full of peace, where those old negative thoughts, even though they've lived there a long time, just struggle to get back in against the new healthy thoughts you've fortified.
So it's not just decluttering the mind, it's like intentional mental redecoration. And Peale gives us concrete techniques for cultivating peace. These include things like peaceful thought imagery, consciously practicing thinking peaceful thoughts, visualizing calm scenes, a beautiful valley, moonlight on water, the sea washing onto sand. These images work like healing medicine, he says, and also suggestive articulation, actually saying peaceful words out loud. Apparently, it has profound suggestive power and healing effects. Uttering panicky words leads to nervousness, that sinking feeling in your stomach.
Right, we've all felt that.
But conversely, saying peaceful words can actually calm the mind.
It's like building a mini meditation break right into your day.
Yeah.
And that idea that just saying the words can shift your physical state, that's pretty remarkable. It emphasizes that words aren't just for communication. They have this profound, suggestive power. This daily practice is like, well, mental hygiene for achieving inner peace.
Absolutely. And then there's peaceful conversation. Peale really stresses the importance of talking peacefully if you want to be peaceful. He suggests injecting peaceful ideas into potentially upsetting group discussions to sort of counteract the nervous tension. He gives an example of avoiding negative conversations, like gossiping or predicting doom, because they can create depressing reactions, annoyance, even mess with your digestion.
Wow.
Instead, he says, start each day by affirming peaceful, contented, happy attitudes. This helps create satisfactory conditions around you.
That raises such an important point about the ripple effect of how we communicate, doesn't it? Our speech isn't just expressing thoughts. It's actively shaping our internal reality and our external reality and influencing the people around us too. It's really about watching your manner of speech if you want to develop inner peace, because those peaceful attitudes are active and definite factors in creating satisfactory conditions.
And finally, within this theme of peace, Peale addresses something heavy: overcoming guilt and self-punishment. He says he frequently finds people who lack inner peace are victims of this self-punishment mechanism. It stems from unresolved guilt, even if they've sincerely sought divine forgiveness. And this leads to constant apprehension, overwork, and often, he says, nervous breakdowns, something a physician confirmed to him.
That highlights such a deep psychological truth: the mind's incredible capacity for self-punishment. Peale tells that story of the highly inflamed, nervous business executive. This guy was plagued by childhood insecurities from his mother's anxiety and later by guilty experiences. But a simple prayer, one that helped him accept forgiveness for himself, led to this strange sense of quietness and peace, and eventually actual healing. Now the story goes, he reads the Bible daily, goes to church, and is a healthy, happy man with real driving force, all because he found peace in his heart and mind. The physician even noted that some nervous breakdowns were directly traceable to guilt. The patient unconsciously tried to compensate through frantic overwork, but true peace only came when that guilt was finally released.
So sometimes our biggest tormentor is actually ourselves, and it literally makes us sick, with overwork just masking the underlying guilt. That's a profound connection, and one we probably don't think about enough. Okay, let's shift gears a bit now. Let's talk about activating inner resources, energy and prayer power. It's not just about finding peace, but about tapping into this, boundless vitality. First up, how to have constant energy.
Yes, and what's fascinating here is the direct link Peale draws between sustained mental focus, reinforced by belief, and actual physical output. He shares that incredible story of Frank Hiller, the Major League Baseball pitcher, renewing his strength in scorching 100-degree heat just by reciting Isaiah 40.31. You know the one. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength.
Yeah.
Hiller explained his technique simply. I passed a powerful energy-producing thought through my mind.
That's such a striking example. A pro athlete using scripture to literally power through a game. It's like a mental energy drink, only way healthier. It just shows how your mental state isn't just a feeling, it's a physiological driver. Peale argues that if your mind tells you you're tired, your body just accepts it. But if your mind is intensely interested, you can keep going almost indefinitely.
And this positions religious faith not just as, spiritual comfort, but as a practical energy-generating system. The Bible's supreme word, he points out, is life, meaning vitality. And Jesus came that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. This suggests that religion, when viewed as a system of thought discipline, supplies faith to the mind, and thereby increases energy.
And it goes even deeper than that, actually defining God as the source of energy. Peale mentions a friend who literally recharges his batteries at church because he sees God as the source of all energy, universal, atomic, electrical, spiritual. Isaiah 40.29 confirms it. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increaseth strength. And Acts 17.28. In him we live, vitality, and move, dynamic energy, and have our being, completeness. It implies this continuous flow of power is available.
Which raises an important question, doesn't it? If our natural state, when body, mind, and spirit are working harmoniously, is one of continuous energy replacement, then depletion must come from these energy leaks. Leaks caused by, as Peale puts it, hereditary or self-imposed emotional reaction of a debilitating nature.
Suggests that overcoming these internal conflicts, fear, resentment, etc., is absolutely crucial for sustained vitality. Peale uses that analogy of an electric clock. Unplug it, it stops. Break contact with that divine energy source, and the personality gradually gets depleted. So staying plugged in is the key to avoiding burnout. That goes way beyond just getting a good night's sleep, doesn't it? It's about this consistent connection to what he calls the ultimate power source. Peale offers several real-world examples of boundless energy, but the one about Thomas Edison is particularly striking. His wife described how he seemed to draw limitless energy from his emotional self-mastery. He could fall asleep naturally, totally relaxed, after hours and hours of intense work, and then wake up completely refreshed, instantly wide awake. She called him nature's man, totally in perfect harmony with nature and with God.
Wow.
Apparently, he had no obsessions, no disorganizations, no conflicts, no mental quirks, no emotional instability. He truly drew his energy from emotional self-mastery, the ability to relax completely.
That suggests that energy isn't just about physical rest, is it? It's profoundly about emotional and spiritual equilibrium. These inner conflicts, fear, resentment, obsessions, they're presented as the real energy drainers, the things that throw off balance, the finely equated nature. Edison's example just highlights how this inner balance translates directly into prodigious physical and mental output.
It's incredible, that link between emotional mastery and physical energy. But okay, how do we manage the tempo of life in our modern, totally sped up world? Peale argues our energy often gets destroyed by the high tempo, the abnormal pace at which we go. He contrasts old grandfather clocks that seem to say, there's plenty of time, with modern clocks that just scream, time to get busy, time to get busy.
Which definitely raises the question, how can we possibly find that God-ordered pace amidst all the daily pressures? Peale suggests things like attuning to nature's rhythm, the wind, insects, or finding it in church, or even, interestingly, in a factory, by working in harmony with the rhythm of a machine. It's about feeling your way into the essential rhythm of Almighty God and all His works. Because, as he puts it, if you're going at one rate and God at another, you're tearing yourself apart.
I definitely feel that time to get busy vibe from my phone every single morning. How do we slow down when, as he says, the mills of most of us grind very rapidly, and so they grind poorly? Peale says the solution is getting into the time synchronization of Almighty God. He suggests practical steps.
Right.
Relax physically, then visualize the mind relaxing and the soul becoming quiet. And then there's prayer for energy, a specific prayer asking God as the source of all energy to fill you. I hereby draw energy from you as from an illimitable source. Then importantly, practice believing you are receiving that energy. Keep in tune with the infinite.
And it's not just about slowing down, but also about having purpose-driven energy. Peale notes that tiredness often stems from a simple lack of interest when nothing ever moves them deeply. He says the surest way not to become tired is to lose yourself in something in which you have a profound conviction. He gives that example of the famous statesman making 7 speeches in one day without tiring. His explanation, I believe absolutely in everything I said in those speeches.
So passion isn't just motivating, it's literally energizing. It turns out when you're deeply invested, the energy just kind of flows. Peale also shares a very powerful, maybe sensitive example of overcoming guilt-induced sleeplessness. A man suffering terrible sleeplessness and energy loss because of fear and guilt over an adulterous relationship. His doctor told him sleeping pills wouldn't work because they cannot reach the deeper levels of your mind where this sleeplessness originates. The only solution was to eradicate the fear and guilt. How? By breaking off the relationship, putting the whole matter in God's hands, and sincerely seeking forgiveness. This lifted the double weight from his mind, allowing him to finally sleep, find peace, and regain his strength.
That narrative really underscores the psychosomatic impact of these deep moral and emotional conflicts on our physical well-being. It positions genuine repentance and spiritual release as absolutely crucial for regaining lost vitality. Peale notes that A not infrequent case of diminishing energy is staleness, where life's pressures just dull the freshness of the mind. For this man, when he finally confessed his series of sins and complicated maze of lies and prayed for forgiveness, his personality once again began to function normally. The energy returned.
Okay, so from energy, let's transition to that direct link to a higher power. Try prayer power. Peale presents this not just as a spiritual exercise, but as a really practical, potent force in everyday life.
Yeah, he kicks it off with that story of the businessman in a major crisis. The guy felt, no power on earth can save me. But his advisors simply suggested, why not try prayer power? And the businessman did. He applied practical prayer techniques, and Peale says, in due course, got his answer. He eventually concluded, every problem can be solved, and solved right if you pray. Importantly, it wasn't some sudden magical fix. The text says he had rather a hard time of it, but he worked his way out of the trouble through persistent prayer.
So it's not just about finding spiritual comfort, it's about practical problem solving, even in the boardroom. It really reframes prayer as this potent active tool. And it seems to go beyond just mental and emotional well-being, extending to prayer and physical well-being. Remember that story of the physiotherapist? He told a nervous patient, God works through my fingers as I seek to relax your physical body. While I work on your outward being, I want you to pray for God's relaxation inwardly. And apparently, it had an amazing relaxing effect. Then there's Jack Smith, the health club operator, whose clients included many outstanding people. He believed firmly, you can't get a man physically healthy until you get him spiritually healthy. He even had this coded sign, APRPBWPRAA, which stood for Affirmative Prayers Release Powers by which positive results are accomplished. He saw prayer as being just as important, maybe even more important, than exercise, steam baths, and rub-downs.
That's such a profound insight, isn't it? That inner harmony, often cultivated through spiritual practice, is actually a precursor to physical well-being. It moves way beyond just mechanistic views of health, emphasizing inner harmony as the key to restoring harmonious functioning of body and soul. Peale highlights that people are praying more simply because they find adds to personal efficiency.
And Peale quotes a famous psychologist, unnamed but famous, who says, prayer is the greatest power available to the individual in solving his personal problems. Its power astonishes me. It's described as a manifestation of energy involving scientific procedures for the release of spiritual energy. Prayer, he suggests, can even normalize the aging process, prevent infirmity, keep the spirit fresh daily, and provide guidings for problems by permeating the subconscious, keeping our reactions correct and sound. Deep prayer, he says, can actually remake you.
It connects back to that idea that our subconscious largely governs our lives, right? And deep prayer can reshape it, releasing and maintaining power by tapping into resources we might not otherwise be able to access.
Now, this next bit is really interesting. The prayerize, picturize, actualize formula. It sounds a bit, well, formulaic, but Peale presents it as this highly effective three-point method from a very successful New York City businessman. This guy started with just a little hole-in-the-wall shop and grew it dramatically. His secret: hard work, positive thinking, fair dealing, treating people right, and the proper kind of praying always get results.
Yes, so the first step is prayerize. This means having a daily system of creative prayer, talking to God simply, directly, like a partner in all your daily activities. He interpreted pray without ceasing as naturally discussing daily questions with God. Eventually, the story goes, the presence came finally to dominate his conscious and ultimately his unconscious thinking. He'd ask God things like, what will I do about this, Lord? Or give me a fresh insight on this, Lord, just like talking to a close associate.
Okay, step one, prayerize. Then picturize. Peale brings in psychology here, stating the basic factor is the realizable wish. The person who assumes success tends to already have it. So after praying about something and testing if it aligns with God's will, you print a picture of it on your mind as happening, holding the picture firmly in consciousness. And you keep surrendering that picture to God's will, essentially putting the outcome in God's hands.
And the final step is actualize. This is where the hard work comes in. You work intelligently, doing your part. You keep practicing belief and holding that visualization firmly in your thoughts. Then the outcome actualizes according to your underlying realizable wish, but conditioned by invoking God's power and fully giving of yourself. Peale even says he personally practiced this three-point method and found great power in it. He uses that compelling example of the woman whose marriage was restored after she applied this formula, crucially recognizing her own need for internal change first.
That really does sound like a kind of spiritual manifestation technique. It's about aligning your desires with a higher power, picturing it, and then putting in the necessary work. And Peale himself talks about using flash prayers and creative ideas. He describes his own practice of praying for random people he'd see from a train window, just quick flash prayers. He felt God's power moving through him doing that. He also says prayer serves as a stimulus to creative ideas, citing the New Testament, "The kingdom of God is within you," implying all potential powers are already within our minds. He shares that anecdote about the business executives who spent 10 minutes in silent prayer and meditation before brainstorming sessions, affirming God would release ideas. Apparently, it led to more good ideas, boosted confidence, and even improved fellowship among them.
It's a powerful testament, isn't it, to how spiritual practice can directly impact very practical business-related outcomes. It sort of redefines what productivity can look like.
I love that flash prayer idea, like sending out little bursts of positive energy. And the executive's idea session, that's a pretty unique corporate strategy. And finally, a very intriguing technique: sleeping while praying. Grove Patterson, a well-known editor, apparently found energy from prayer specifically by falling asleep while praying.
Really?
Yeah. He believed his subconscious was most relaxed at that exact time, allowing the prayer to have a really powerful effect on the part of the mind where life is largely governed.
So prayer isn't just for when you're awake. It can actually work while you're literally recharging. That's quite a revelation for optimizing your sleep.
Yeah.
He used to worry about falling asleep praying, Peale says, but then realized the potential power and started trying to do it, recognizing the deeper impact during that relaxed state.
Okay, now let's tackle overcoming life's challenges: defeat, worry, and problems. This is really where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? Applying these principles when things get tough. We'll start with a really optimistic one: expect the best and get it.
Yeah, Peale shares that story of the puzzled father whose son, despite having every advantage, good family, education opportunities, just failed at every job. The son had, as Peale puts it, a tragic flair for failure. But then he learned the magic of believing. The core idea: if you expect the worst, you tend to get the worst. If you expect the best, you tend to get the best. He started practicing Mark 9.23. If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. Trained his mind to think positively, put himself in God's hands. And apparently things changed almost at once. He acquired the touch of success.
This doesn't sound like simple wishful thinking, though, does it? It sounds more like tapping into some kind of scientific law, one recognized by both psychology and religion. The son said, "God and I struck up a partnership, and when he adopted that policy, things began to change almost at once for me."
Precisely. Peale quotes the famous psychologist William James, who stated, "Our belief at the beginning of a doubtful undertaking is the one thing that ensures the successful outcome of your venture." Expecting the best seems to release this magnetic force that attracts positive outcomes, while expecting the worst releases the power of repulsion. Peale finds it amazing how a sustained expectation of the best actually sets forces in motion that cause the best to materialize.
And this plays out in really tangible ways, even in areas like overcoming defeat in sports and sales. Peale gives that great example of the struggling vacuum cleaner saleswoman. She was failing miserably, poured out her story of defeat to a customer, and the customer gave her a formula. If God be for us, who can be against us? Personalized to, if God be for me, who can be against me?
Personalizing it.
Exactly. So she started approaching each house, expecting to make a sale, affirming and picturizing positive, not negative, results. And guess what? She acquired new courage, faith, confidence. Now she declares, "God helps me sell vacuum cleaners." It shows how deeply ingrained expectation can totally shift performance. He also briefly mentions that baseball teams stuck in a slump because, fundamentally, they didn't expect to win. Their mental pattern was just defeat.
That vacuum cleaner story is such a powerful example of internal belief translating into tangible results, isn't it? Even in something as practical as sales. Because, as Peale says, what the mind profoundly expects, it tends to receive. Unless you really want something enough to create that atmosphere of positive factors through your dynamic desire, it's likely to slip away. If with all your heart, he says, that's the secret.
Peale boils this down to 4 words, calling it a formulation of a great law. Faith power works wonders. He highlights how saturating your mind with the great words of the Bible, maybe spending an hour a day on it, can help overcome almost any difficulty. He gives the example of that refrigerator plant manager, head of 40,000 people, who kept religious literature on his desk and genuinely believed God was in his office with him. He even told his workers, don't just bring Bibles under your arms, bring them in your hearts and in your minds, meaning with a spirit of goodwill and faith when you come to do business. It illustrates that specific kind of faith, the kind that moves this particular mountain.
And the manager's personal story about his toe, the one the doctors couldn't fix. That exemplifies this really practical, almost literal application of faith to physical problems. He sent his toe right back to the plant, meaning God, believing that God, who made the toe, could fix it. And his toe healed. It just highlights how profound belief can extend even to physical healing in Peale's view.
That's a really powerful and memorable story. And finally, for overcoming defeat, Peale offers the I can do all things affirmation. That famous line from Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Repeating that 5 times daily, he says, releases indomitable power in the mind. It's presented as a way to tell the truth to your subconscious, which always resents any change. To overcome the greatest liars in existence, which he says are our own mistaken beliefs about our abilities, fed back to us by our subconscious.
It sounds like you're basically having a stern but loving chat with your own inner critic. You're feeding it these powerful, positive thoughts until it starts sending back the truth. And the truth, according to this affirmation, is that with Jesus Christ, there isn't any obstacle you cannot overcome. You are, in effect, finally telling the truth to your subconscious, reprogramming its underlying beliefs.
Okay, next up, let's tackle a really universal challenge. And it's not just about feeling better, it's about actual health, how to break the worry habit.
Right, and Peale makes it clear. Worry isn't just a nagging feeling. It can physically harm you. He quotes Dr. George W. Cryle, a famous surgeon, saying, we feel not only in our minds, but in our hearts, brains, and viscera. Basically, worry's effects show up in our cells, tissues, organs. Another neurologist, Dr. Stanley Cobb, linked worry directly to rheumatoid arthritis. Peale mentions a doctor observing a literal epidemic of fear and worry causing illness brought on directly by fear and aggravated by worry and a feeling of insecurity.
Wow, an epidemic.
Yeah, but the remedy, Peale insists, is simple. Believe that you can overcome it, because whatever you believe you can do with God's help. He even notes that people who lived to be 100 were often free from worry and fear, especially fear of death, and had serene minds and faith.
That's such a stark reminder of the mind-body connection. Worry is genuinely a practical health problem. So what's Peale's practical procedure? He suggests a 2-step approach. First, practice emptying the mind daily, preferably before bed, so you don't hold on to worries while you sleep when thoughts sink deeper into the subconscious. He gives that practical tip. Write worries on paper, then burn it. A symbolic act to avoid mentally retaining them.
Okay, empty the mind. Step 1.
Step 2, refill with faith immediately. After emptying, he says, cauterize it with God's grace. Then fill the mind with thoughts of faith, hope, courage, expectancy. You repeat affirmations aloud, things like, God is now filling my mind with courage, with peace. God is now protecting me. God is now guiding me. God will see me through this. Doing this a 6 times each day until the mind is overflowing, literally crowds out worry. Peale states, fear is the most powerful of all thoughts with one exception, and that one exception is faith. Faith can always overcome fear. He even issues a warning. Fear something over a long period of time, and there is a real possibility that by fearing you may actually help bring it to pass, citing Job, for the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me.
That's a direct application of the principle of replacement, isn't it? You can't just stop thinking something negative. You have to actively replace it with something else, something positive. It's like launching an internal campaign against fear, designed to actualize the object of your faith instead of your fear. You effectively leave no mental room left for fear.
That makes so much sense. And he offers a really clever strategy, snipping off little worries. Instead of launching a full frontal attack on the main body of worry, which can feel overwhelming, he says approach it like cutting down a big tree. Start by snipping off the small branches, the little worries, then the larger ones. Finally, the main trunk is easier to handle when it's smaller. So this means reducing worry words in your conversation and immediately swapping worry thoughts for faith thoughts and expressions.
So tackle the small anxieties first, and the bigger ones become more manageable. That's a really clever strategy, like a mental game of whack-a-mole for worries. And he suggests the less worrying you do, the more likely you are to start things promptly, because the uncluttered mind is systematic and is able to regulate time. Less worry, more focus.
He also provides powerful insights on daily faith conditioning. Dr. Daniel A. Polling's technique, just repeating, I believe, 3 times every morning before getting out of bed to condition the mind for faith for the whole day. And Howard Christie, the artist, declared that only that comes out of the mind which originally you put into the mind. His recommendation: spend 15 minutes every day filling my mind full of God to leave absolute no room for worry.
That really reinforces the idea of proactive mental discipline and also the simplicity of these effective methods. It's all about cultivating this dominant internal narrative of faith and courage. So you literally have no mental room left to accommodate thoughts of worry and lack of faith. It's about recognizing that worry is fundamentally, as Peale says, a destructive process of occupying the mind with thoughts contrary to God's love and care.
And finally, that vivid example, the worry experiment. This businessman, a tremendous worrier, tried an experiment. He set aside 30 minutes just to worry intensively. He even ate a good breakfast beforehand, for successful worrying.
Dedicated.
Right. But he found he just couldn't make heads nor tails of it. He gave up. Instead, he filled his mind with God for 15 minutes daily and apparently started having the time of his life all day long.
That's brilliant. He turned worry into this ridiculous, almost impossible task and exposed its futility. It just shows that the solution is often much simpler than we make it. It dramatizes to your own mind that an effective counterattack is happening, bringing spiritual forces to bear in a usable way.
Okay, let's move to power to solve personal problems. We've all got them right. And Peale offers what feels like a powerful roadmap here.
Yeah, he opens this chapter with that story of Mary and Bill. Remember, the couple facing really severe financial and business problems. Bill got laid off. They felt like everything was swept away. The author, acting as their counselor, helped them simply list their existing assets: a wonderful wife, 3 devoted children, friends who respected them, their integrity, good health, living in the U.S., their religious faith. And just doing that exercise helps shift their mental attitude. It allowed faith to kind of emerge from the background and start overcoming the difficulties. They learned to solve problems according to well-defined, spiritually scientific principles.
That's such a great example of shifting perspective. It's not about denying the problem exists, but about recognizing the strengths and resources you already have. Even when you feel like everything's gone, it really offers a new viewpoint that opens up possibilities.
And he introduces that powerful analogy: throwing your heart over the bar. Whenever you face a bar, a barrier, you stop, close your eyes, visualize everything above the bar, nothing below it. Then imaginatively throw your heart over that bar and really believe you're being given lifting power to rise above it. You actually try to feel this upthrust of force.
That's such a vivid image. It's like mentally committing to success before you even take the physical action. And central to all this problem solving is the concept of God as a partner. Peale presents this as a really effective technique, conceiving of God not as some distant deity, but as a real, actual partner, like a spouse or a business associate. Christianity teaches God is with us, Emmanuel. So he suggests practicing talking matters over with him, believing he hears and gives you proper ideas and insights to solve your problems, and believing that within those solutions there is the power of God for you.
That's a profound reorientation of one's relationship with the divine, isn't it? From distant God to active, engaged partner in daily life. It implies this constant dialogue and reliance, and it leads to solutions that are good for you and that are harmonious with God's will. He uses the example of Maurice and Mary Alice Flint, who overcame incredibly desperate situations simply by having faith. Really have faith, as they put it. It reinforces that they knew how to get problems solved right, no matter how bad things looked.
And Peale doesn't just leave it there. He provides 10 simple suggestions for solving problems. It's a really practical blend of analytical thinking and spiritual trust. Some of the steps include believing that for every problem there is a solution, keeping calm because tension blocks thought power, assembling all the facts impartially, listing them on paper to clarify your thinking, and then, crucially, praying about your problem, affirming that God will flash illumination into your mind. He also suggests trusting your insight and intuition and even letting your subconscious work on the problem while you attune to a mood of worship in church.
Yeah, that blend is key. The analytical steps, gathering facts, listing them, combined with the spiritual practices, prayer, church, intuition, it showcases this really holistic approach to problem solving. It's not either, but both working together to produce right answers. Answers that are good for you and harmonious with a higher purpose.
Okay, next, let's explore holistic transformation. Healing, new thoughts, and relaxation. This section really connects the dots between mind, body, and spirit in a powerful way. First up, how to use faith in healing.
The core principle here is about combining medical science with the science of faith. Peale is very clear. I believe in the combination of God and the doctor. He says many authenticated examples exist of people being healed by faith, and he sees faith as the plus factor that complements medical skill. Both are seen as vital elements in the healing process.
So it's not about choosing one over the other, but this amazing synergy. Like medical treatment getting a kind of spiritual superpower boost. Peale shares a really powerful case study, osteoma of the jaw, a businessman diagnosed with a practically incurable bone tumor on his jaw. He wasn't particularly religious, but he started reading the Bible and found consolation and comfort. Then he started noticing his condition improving. He experienced this curious inward feeling of warmth and great happiness. And over 14 years, his symptoms of osteoma completely disappeared.
Wow, 14 years.
Yeah. The doctors were surprised, couldn't fully explain it, but acknowledged it was the skillful work of the physician plus. And what was the plus? Obviously, the faith that heals.
That really highlights the missing link that Peale felt many physicians were starting to recognize even back then. He points out that the word holiness actually derives from wholeness, and meditation sounds very close to medication. He implies there's this inherent, often neglected connection between spiritual practice and physical health. Sincere meditation on God, he suggests, acts as a medication for the soul and body. He saw this as a return to the original practice of Christianity, which for centuries carried on healing activities.
So a doctor's prescription could potentially include a Bible or an inspirational book. That's a real paradigm shift in how we typically view health. Peale emphasizes the psychosomatic connection. Modern medicine, he notes, increasingly recognizes psychosomatic factors that close link between how a person thinks and feels and their actual bodily health. Since religion deals directly with thoughts, feelings, basic attitudes, he argues, it is only natural that the science of faith should be important in the healing process.
Indeed. He recounts a physician speaking at a Rotary Club who stated that maybe 60% of his patients didn't need medicine as much as they needed better thought patterns. They were sick in their thoughts and emotions with fear, inferiority, guilt, resentment. This doctor found himself frequently quoting the Bible and even prescribing religious books. Another physician in Birmingham, Alabama, apparently wrote out actual prescription forms to be filled at a bookstore, prescribing specific books for specific troubles.
That's incredible.
It just indicates his growing recognition back then of the deep interrelation between the physical and spiritual in human illness, where there's often no clearly defined dividing line between the two.
And this connection is stark. Our unaddressed emotions aren't just mental anguish, they're literally attacking our bodies. Dr. Rebecca Beard's observations on psychosomatic causes are startling. High blood pressure linked to subtle repressed fear, often imaginary fears about the future. Diabetes linked to grief or disappointment, which apparently uses up more energy than any other emotion, exhausting the insulin-producing cells.
That's specific.
Right. She notes medical interventions offer relief, but often not a complete cure for these underlying emotional conflicts. She concludes that a better understanding of our own emotional selves and a return to religious faith offer the greatest promise of permanent health, she directly states. The answer is in the healing teachings of Jesus.
And we see this played out in practice with overcoming hatred and guilt for healing. Peale tells the story of Harold Sherman, a playwright, who developed a throat mycosis, a fungus growth apparently stemming from growing bitterness and hatred towards a radio executive who wronged him. Sherman stated it was the one time in his life when he had murder in his heart. But when he consciously gave up his hate and developed a feeling of forgiveness and understanding, the condition gradually corrected itself, helped by medical aid and his new mental attitude. Another story involves a woman physician, initially tense, irritable, beset with old fears and guilts. She found release reading Peale's book, Seeing God as the Great Physician, with faith in him as an antibiotic to kill the germs of fear and render useless the virus of guilt. She then shared these principles with her own neuroses patients, witnessing miraculous recoveries. This provides really compelling evidence within the book's framework for the curative power of emotional and spiritual release, especially from toxic emotions like hate and guilt. It's a reminder that true healing encompasses much more than just the physical, and that prayer can work powerfully in tandem with medical science. It's presented as a sensible and effective pattern for achieving both health and happiness.
Okay, building directly on that, let's look at when vitality sags. Try this health formula. This section highlights an often missed cause of flagging energy and offers a, well, perhaps surprising solution.
Yeah, Peale starts with that humorous anecdote about someone asking for a bottle of psychosomatic medicine at a drugstore. Of course, that kind of medicine isn't found in pills or bottles. Instead, it's a prescription compounded of prayer, faith, and dynamic spiritual thinking. He cites estimates that 50 to 75% of people ill at the time were suffering due to the influence of improper mental states on their emotional and physical well-being.
So the psychosomatic medicine we all might need isn't in a bottle, but in a fundamental mental and spiritual shift. That's a pretty deep dive into self-care, a real health formula for when vitality just sags. Peale gives a very vivid example. The sales manager's transformation through mind emptying. This executive, once efficient and energetic, had experienced a serious decline. Vacations, medical care, nothing helped definitively. His boss, rather indignantly, sent him to the religio-psychiatric clinic at Peale's church. Initially sullen, the executive only cooperated after being bluntly told his job was on the line.
High stakes.
Totally. Then the truth came out. A series of sins, a complicated maze of lies. He was living in constant fear of exposure, just a pathetic mass of inner confusion, what Peale calls little short of mental filth.
Wow, strong words.
Yeah. Peale explained that a thorough mind emptying was needed. After the man confessed everything and offered a simple, heartfelt prayer asking for forgiveness, peace, and strength, he experienced this dramatic expression of release and relief.
And that really highlights the paralyzing effect of unaddressed guilt and hidden shame on your entire being, doesn't it? Leading to a total breakdown of vitality. It illustrates how normal sources of emotional, spiritual, and intellectual power become clogged up. The act of confession and seeking forgiveness is presented here as just a crucial step in freeing the mind and restoring that lost power.
Absolutely. And the result? He returned to his office that very day and quickly regained his efficiency, becoming one of the best sales managers in his city. His president later remarked, "I don't know what you did to Bill, but he is certainly a ball of fire."
A complete turnaround.
And it underscores again how powerful our emotions are physically. Gridgitis and emotional effects on health. A physician told Peale about a patient who essentially died of gridgitis, this long-held hatred that did his body such damage that his resistance was lowered. He succumbed when a physical illness attacked him. Anger causes immediate physical reactions like that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach, and prolonged emotional outbursts or just constant simmering states cause the general condition of the body to deteriorate. Dr. Charles Minor Cooper noted blood pressure could jump 60 points almost instantaneously during an angry outburst, highlighting the immense strain on the heart.
That's a literal warning sign flashing. Our emotions aren't just feelings. They are physiological events happening in our bodies. Holding on to grudges isn't just unpleasant. It's presented here as a serious health hazard that could literally undermine your physical well-being.
It just reinforces the scientific understanding of the mind-body connection, emphasizing that sustained negative emotions have measurable damaging physical effects. It provides a really powerful why for cultivating inner peace and actively releasing negative attitudes like resentment, hate, and ill will.
Okay, moving on to inflow of new thoughts can remake you. This section really gets to the absolute core of personal transformation, doesn't it? It really does. Peale starts with what he calls one of the most important facts about us, quoting William James again. "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind." Unquote. The core principle here is just profound. As you think, so shall you be. Which means actively flushing out old, tired, worn-out thoughts and deliberately filling the mind with fresh, new creative thoughts of faith, love, and goodness. Doing this, Peale argues, can actually remake your life.
That really is the core message, isn't it? Our thoughts aren't just fleeting things, they're the architects of our reality, and crucially, we have the power to change them. So where do you find these personality remaking thoughts? Peale gives an interesting answer, focusing on the Bible as an up-to-date source of new thoughts. He describes this business executive who is apparently never defeated, always tackling difficulties with optimism. Despite having this ultra-modern office, he keeps an old, battered copy of the Bible right on his desk.
Interesting contrast.
Yeah. He calls it the most up-to-date thing in this plant. He sees it as a constant source of inspiration, wisdom, and fresh ideas. He reads it daily, underlines verses, commits them to memory, aiming to cram his mind full of tremendous spiritual ideas. And these spiritual ideas, he believes, then generate new ideas for his business, making him this extraordinarily well-organized individual.
Such a powerful metaphor for timeless wisdom, isn't it? It reframes these spiritual texts not as dusty, archaic documents, but as living sources of practical, creative power for modern life. It shows that an inflow of new, right, health-laden thoughts through the mind creatively affects the circumstances of life, for truth always produces right procedures and therefore right results. This executive truly believed that Everything in the Bible works if you believe in it.
That's fascinating, finding practical power in ancient wisdom. And another powerful tool Peale highlights is optimistic visualization. He uses the example of Henry J. Kaiser. After a flood covered his plant machinery in thick mud, his workers were totally glum, defeated. Kaiser just asked, "What mud?"
Huh? Just denied its existence.
Pretty much. He pointed up to the clear blue sky and said, "I never saw any mud that could stand against sunshine. Soon it will be dried up." This kind of optimistic visualization, when combined with prayer and faith, Peale argues will inevitably actualize achievement.
That's such a compelling image. It's like he mentally cleared away the mud before they physically started the work. A true master of attitude, looking up at the sunshine instead of down at the mud. It highlights that if your eyes are always looking down in the mud, you'll just create defeat for yourself.
And sometimes the key to letting in new thoughts is a moment of radical self-realization. Peale shares the story of Harry, described as a complete personality failure who blamed everyone else for his repeated job losses. Then one night, he had this sudden flash of insight. "I myself am wrong. I have been thinking wrong, and as a result, I have created wrong outcomes."
Taking responsibility.
Crucial. Exactly. He was urged to ask God to make him right and embrace the truth from John 8:32. "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." He became an enthusiastic follower of Christ, consciously changed his thoughts and personal habits, and found freedom from his pattern of failure.
That just underscores such a critical step in any self-improvement journey. Radical self-honesty and accepting internal accountability. Until you take responsibility for your own thought patterns, true transformation is incredibly difficult. It's about accepting that your internal state shapes your external reality, and that the great secret of successful living is to reduce the amount of error in oneself and increase the amount of truth. Harry literally shouted, "I've got it, when he had that realization.
And finally, in this section, Peale touches on tension as a prevailing malady. He references a monthly letter from the Royal Bank of Canada titled, "Let's Slow Down." Even a bank identified tension as this huge problem bedeviling basically every adult, preventing them from living fully and making it hard just to relax. He reminds us of Carlyle's phrase, "the calm supremacy of the spirit over its circumstances." He even mentions seeing a coin-operated blood pressure machine on a Florida street where you could pay to get the bad news. It just underscores how prevalent even commercialized anxiety had become even then.
It's pretty remarkable when a major banking institution starts talking about tension and spiritual supremacy, isn't it? It just shows how pervasive this issue is and how much we can become victims of mounting tension and this perpetual binge of high-strung nervous systems.
So if tension is such a pervasive malady, what's the antidote? Let's dive into the next chapter. Relax for easy power.
Peale shares a fantastic three-point formula for relaxation from an executive who apparently worked effectively under immense pressure. His method for relaxing and living with easy does it. 1. Be like a burlap bag. Just empty yourself of all self-importance, all tension. Become empty and totally relaxed. 2. Drain the mind frequently. Several times throughout the day, consciously drain your mind of all irritation, all resentment, disappointment, frustration, and annoyance. This prevents buildup. Otherwise, you need a major blasting out process, which impedes the flow of relaxed power. And 3, think spiritually. At least 3 times a day, deliberately turn the mind to God, maybe by lifting your eyes to the hills or just pausing. This keeps you tuned into God's harmony and refills you with peace.
That sounds like a daily mental detox and recharge routine. So simple, yet really profound. Especially that image of the burlap bag. It really makes you think about how much unnecessary mental weight we carry around. Peale also details some really practical mini relaxation techniques in daily life. He talks about Dr. Z. Taylor Berkowitz, a New York physician. This doctor worked relaxed, even with a packed office and constant phone calls. How? He'd suddenly just stop, lean against his desk, and talk to the Lord in this very natural, respectful way.
Really? In the middle of the workday?
Yeah. Asking for healing peace, composure, strength, conserved energy so he could help his patients. He'd stand quietly, thank the Lord, and then proceed with full but easy power. He also used traffic jams as opportunities to relax. He'd shut off his engine, slump in his seat, close his eyes, even nap sometimes. He called these interludes of complete relaxation that have real energy renewal value.
Those examples are so practical, aren't they? They show how you can integrate these small, intentional moments of deep relaxation and spiritual connection right into a hectic schedule. It proves that it isn't length of relaxation time that produces power, it's the quality of the experience. It's all about being watchful, lest tension develop beyond a controllable degree. Peale also mentions Roger Babson, the famous statistician, and Dale Carnegie, the author. Both apparently went into empty churches just to sit quietly, maybe read hymns or meditate, especially when they were busiest. That shows real control of time rather than being controlled by it.
That's such insightful advice, especially for anyone dealing with difficult people or high-pressure presentations. It's real self-mastery in action, and it clearly pays off in successful outcomes and inner peace. Peale recounts that congressman on a train heading to face a really hostile group of constituents. He wasn't worried. His method: I will breathe deeply, talk quietly, speak sincerely, be friendly and respectful, hold my temper, and trust in God to see me through. Well, he learned that in any situation, be relaxed, keep calm, take a friendly attitude, have faith, do your best. Do this, and usually you can make things come out all right.
And all this relaxation leads to working with joyous power. Peale paints this beautiful picture of a workman shoveling sand at his farm. Stripped to the waist, lean, muscular, working with precision and correlation, the shovel rising and falling in perfect rhythm. And he was singing as he worked. The foreman described him as good-humored, happy, and a pleasant person with whom to work. He was, Peale says, a relaxed man who lived with joyous power, master of the art of easy does it. This relaxation comes from continuous recreation, living in tune with that continual flow of force that proceeds from God through the individual and back to God for renewal.
So it connects physical ease and efficiency directly to this harmonious spiritual state. It suggests that resistance and struggle are often just self-imposed, breaking the natural rhythm of work and life. It's about getting your personality speed synchronized with the rate of God's movement, rather than letting hectic habits tear you apart. And Peale provides 10 rules for working hard easily. These are practical methods to help you relax and tap into that easy power. They include things like, don't think you're Atlas carrying the world, don't strain so hard, determine to like your work, plan your work, and work your plan to avoid feeling swamped. Don't try to do everything at once.
Simple but effective.
Right. Also, get a correct mental attitude. Think it's hard, you make it hard. Think it's easy, it tends to become easy. Become efficient. Knowledge is power over your job. Practice being relaxed easy always does it. Discipline yourself not to procrastinate. Pray about your work for relaxed efficiency. And crucially, take on God as that unseen partner. It's surprising the load he'll take off you. God is at home in offices and kitchens just as much as in churches.
These aren't just tips, are they? It's an entire philosophy for productive yet stress-free work. It's all about finding that divine rhythm in your daily grind, ensuring you are in harmony with the rhythm of the machine on which they're working, whether that's a literal machine or just the rhythm of your job.
And finally, we arrive at what Peale presents as the ultimate source of all this power, drawing upon a higher power. This really ties everything we've discussed together.
Yeah, he begins with that anecdote about George, the despondent guy in the country club locker room. His friend simply advises him to draw upon that higher power. George initially wishes he knew how, but eventually he discovers it. And it transforms his life into one that is healthy, happy. The core message for anyone feeling unhappy, depressed, or just stuck is clear. The secret is to draw upon that higher power.
It sounds like this goes beyond just self-help, doesn't it? It's about self-accessing something much, much bigger. Now, Peale clearly identifies this higher power as God and the wisdom derived from spiritual texts like the Bible. But you could perhaps see the underlying principle more broadly, too, connecting to a source of power and purpose beyond your individual limitations. Whether you interpret that as the divine universal consciousness or simply tapping into your deepest inner wisdom and strength. Peale describes it as a force beyond but resident within ourselves, constantly available, and capable of producing thoroughgoing, tremendous, overwhelming changes for good. He emphasizes, you don't have to be unhappy or depressed. The secret is available to you.
And Peale shares his own personal experience of overstrain and divine renewal. As a young pastor leading a large church, he was working very hard, trying to justify the confidence placed in him. He experienced overstrain, constant tiredness, no feeling of normal power. His mentor, Professor Hugh M. Tilrow, described as a real man's man. An avid outdoorsman read him that passage from Isaiah 40. Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting God fainteth not, neither is weary, he giveth power to the faint? Tilrow's advice was direct. Practice resting yourself in God. Practice depending upon him for his support and power. Believe he is giving it to you now, and don't get out of touch with that power. He even used a baseball analogy. Swing the bat easy like, don't try to kill the ball, trust your reserve power.
That's such a key takeaway, isn't it? Even when you're giving absolutely everything you've got, if you're not connected to this higher power, you'll just burn out. It's not about working less, but working differently with that easy power without overtrying or overpressing.
And Peale then shares that incredibly compelling story of transformative healing through Faith, Horace, and Helen. This couple, both chronically ill, doctors offering little hope, they began daily reading and memorizing that same Isaiah passage, believing unfalteringly that they were being guided and that the healing grace of Jesus Christ was being given them. They actively pictured the healing power of the great physician working within them. They became, as Peale says, gloriously childlike in their faith, finding new insights in the Bible. Helen experienced a profound rebirth in the spirit, a newfound appreciation for nature's beauty, noticing flowers, clouds, birdsong with fresh eyes.
And physically.
She improved physically, regaining strength and creative power.
Yours.
No more heart trouble. He became extraordinarily vital. They ended up becoming a center of its life in their new community.
Their story is just such a powerful testament to the tangible physical manifestation of spiritual belief, as presented by Peale. It suggests that this deep, childlike faith can unlock healing capabilities that traditional medicine alone might not reach. It's described as a truly creative process where physical, mental, and spiritual vigor all merge.
And this higher power, according to Peale, can even address deeply ingrained issues like addiction. He shows us in the example of overcoming addiction with higher power. He tells the dramatic story of Ed, a man described as a hopeless alcoholic for 25 years, lost his job, assets, marriage. His friend Carl advised him, if you really want to do something about your problem, get sober and attend a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Carl gave him practical advice for resisting temptation. Every time you come to a bar or whiskey sign or beer garden, just say one little prayer, please God, get me past this place. And then Carl added, run like hell. That will be cooperating with God.
Run like hell. Practical advice indeed.
Right. Ed followed it. And apparently at the church entrance where the AA meeting was, directly facing his favorite bar, he felt a power greater than myself pulled me to the meeting. This led to a complete rebirth, immediate sobriety, and finally peace after 5 long years of sleeplessness. He woke up the next morning with the realization, there is a power greater than yourself. If you will turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him, He will give you strength. He started attending church, even forgave a preacher he'd hated, understanding that hate is associated with emotional and spiritual sickness.
These stories are just incredible. They show how powerful and sometimes immediate this shift can be. It's not always a gradual change, but sometimes this sudden, profound transformation. It seems to prove Peale's point that if there is deep desire, intensity of longing, and a sincere reaching out after the power, that it will be given.
It really raises that important question. What happens when that deep desire and sincere reaching out for a higher power actually meet? These narratives suggest an immediate, profound intervention is possible. And Peale emphasizes that this power is available for anybody under any circumstances or in any condition. It can drive out fear, hate, sickness, weakness, moral defeat. The book essentially concludes with the assertion that there is no problem, difficulty, or defeat that you cannot solve or overcome by faith, positive thinking, and prayer to God.
So, wow, we've gone on quite a journey today, haven't we? Uncovering how foundational self-belief, achieving a peaceful mind, and actively drawing upon a higher power can truly remake your life, your energy levels, even your physical health. We've seen through these stories how simple yet profound shifts in your thought patterns, when backed by consistent practice, can unlock some incredible potential.
Yeah, we've really seen how the practical, systematic application of these principles, often rooted deeply in spiritual wisdom, can transform situations that seem impossible, and how they can drain away the very things, the worry, the guilt, the resentment that deplete us. The examples shared throughout this deep dive really illustrate that this isn't just theoretical stuff. It's presented as a workable philosophy of living, designed for plain people to help them live more effective lives.
Peale says this higher power is constantly available and will rush in like a mighty tide if you just open yourself to it. So thinking about everything we've discussed today, what small, concrete step could you take, starting today, to intentionally plug into that deeper reservoir of power and peace in your own life?
That raises a really important question for you to consider. If your thoughts genuinely shape your reality, and if the great secret of successful living is to reduce the amount of error in oneself and increase the amount of truth, as Peale suggests, what is the one mental habit you'll commit to changing, starting right now, to invite more power and peace into your day and begin to actualize the object of your faith?